Hey guys, tonight we travel back to the hush of flickering candlelight and the whisper of ink gliding across parchment. You are a map maker in Venice in the year 1491, one of the finest, though your name is rarely spoken aloud and even more rarely written. Your studio is tucked into a creaking attic above a spice merchant's warehouse, where the walls smell perpetually of clove and sweat. It's warm tonight, the sort of warmth that makes the air sit too still, as if waiting for something to happen. And you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Then comment below where you're listening from and what time it is. Midnight in Milan? 3:07 a.m. in Manila? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are bent over your workbench. The wood is dented and worn smooth with decades of sketches and recalculations. Spread across it is a sheet of goat parchment large enough to cover a small table, held in place by 4 lead weights. The top right corner curls persistently, as if it too wants to escape the room. Your fingers, stained with iron gall ink, hover above a half-finished coastline. The Adriatic curves inward with familiar arrogance, like it knows it's the spine of something grand. This map, this will be your final one. A commission from someone high, though precisely who remains obscure by titles and messengers and wax-sealed letters stamped with coats of arms you're not meant to recognize. Draw the known world, the note said, before it changes forever. You wondered at the time if the message was poetic or a warning. Outside your crooked window, Venice sings her nocturne. The slap of water against the pilings, the distant clink of wine bottles, someone playing a soft melody on a bone flute. The city is half lost in fog. It floats, just like the rumors of ships preparing to sail west into uncharted waters. A sailor you knew once whispered that the earth ends in a great waterfall, and that falling off it is said to feel like being swallowed by silence. You had to bite your tongue to keep from laughing. But still you sketched it just in case. A quiet curl of sea falling into the mouth of a dragon. You lean back in your stool and stretch. Bones crack. Your knees protest. You are not young, not anymore. Your knees sound like 2 merchants haggling every time you stand. You once joked that if you died while working, your bones would turn into compass needles. You laughed alone. You almost always do. On the shelf behind you rests a heavy, leather-bound atlas gifted by a Turkish scholar in exchange for a Greek celestial chart. It contains one of the earliest surviving maps of the Indian Ocean, though you suspect several islands are fictional, named after fruits that don't exist. One particularly suspicious atoll is simply labeled Banana Land. Scholars still argue whether medieval sailors invented islands to pad their expense reports or if these places were simply mirages. Sandbars, cloud shadows, or, as some drunken captain swore, floating islands made of giant turtles. A knock at your door. Soft, deliberate. You freeze. No one visits this late, not without reason. You pull the velvet cover over the map and open the door just a crack. A boy stands there, perhaps 12, with a basket of figs and a sealed scroll. His mouth is smudged with juice. He blinks up at you, says nothing, hands over the basket, and runs off without waiting for coin. Inside the scroll, written in careful Latin, is a short message. Begin with the edges. All things change from the edges first. No signature, only a strange sigil, A compass rose with sword running through its center. You sigh and sit again. The figs are warm, sticky, and impossibly sweet. You eat too, without even meaning to. They taste like memory. You light another candle. The old wax pools around the new, forming a strange molten landscape that mimics the mountains you're about to draw. Your pen moves. Carefully, you shape the coast of Africa, not as it is drawn on merchant maps, all jagged and arrogant, but as you've come to believe it might actually look, if you follow the currents and the wind maps and the half-truths passed between sailors. Here, a cape that doesn't appear on most maps. There, an inlet you've only ever seen referenced in Arabic poetry. You hesitate, then mark it anyway. And just like that, your final map begins to breathe. The hours stretch long and honeyed. Your thoughts wander. You remember your mentor, old Maestro Romano, who once declared, "A good map shows you where to go. A great map shows you what to wonder about." He also said that lizards were miniature dragons and should be addressed with respect. So, grain of salt, as the candles gutter low, you run your fingers across the paper. You whisper to it, a strange old habit, something between prayer and promise. Because this isn't just ink and casking. This is legacy. This is risk. This is the moment before the world breaks open. The window rattles faintly as a gust of wind snakes in from the canal. Your map lifts at the corners, almost like it's trying to catch the breeze. And for a moment, just a flicker, you imagine the earth as a living creature, stretching, stirring, getting ready to change. You dip your pen again. There is much still to draw. You rise late the next morning, not from sloth, but from exhaustion, so complete it becomes a kind of grace. Outside, the fog is retreated, but the canals still glisten with morning damp. Somewhere below, a gondolier curses cheerfully as he runs aground on a rotting barrel. Your breakfast is a heel of bread, a hard pear, and one more fig saved from last night. It's the kind of meal that wouldn't impress a Venetian dog, but it's enough to wake your stomach and keep your hand steady. You roll up the portion of the map you finished and tuck it gently into its tube. Then, with deliberate care, you unlatch the chest by your desk, the one you keep locked with a tiny iron key worn smooth from years of turning. Inside, salt-stained letters, dozens of them, some on crumbling paper, others on sheets of bark or linen, all sent to you by sailors, traders, spies, monks, and a few who never said who they were at all. You've been collecting them for years. Each one a glimpse of the world, blurry and half-mad. You spread them across the floor like autumn leaves. One from a Genoese sailor, written in slanted ink and spattered with something that smells suspiciously like rum. Past the Azores. Saw birds with silver bellies. Followed them west. Sea turned warm, then green. Heard voices in the mist. No land in sight. You chuckle. Voices in the mist. Likely just crewmen arguing over soup. Still, you mark it. Birds don't fly out that far without reason. Another letter is older, written in Arabic and translated by a friend who since vanished in Alexandria. It describes islands where trees grow upside down and the moon kisses the water every night. That one you set aside, not because it's reliable, but because it's beautiful. There's something strangely soothing about the absurdity of sailors. One letter stands out, written on thick, waterproof vellum in blocky Spanish. The seal is unfamiliar. You break it open. Scene: land west of Madeira. No name. 3 peaks. Smelled of smoke. Saw light. Wind reversed violently. You pause. 3 peaks. That's a pattern. You've read that before, in at least 4 different accounts. Some from Spaniards, one from a Moor, another from a shipwrecked Irish monk who later tried to sell you a mermaid tooth, which turned out to be a goat molar. Still, patterns matter, even among lies, especially among lies. The most curious letter is the oldest, a faded Latin scroll wrapped in oilskin. It begins mid-thought, as if the writer had already written hundreds of pages before and then just kept going. Here, the sun sets twice, once in the water and once in the sails. The stars change names after midnight. You remember the first time you read that. You laughed out loud. Then you copied it anyway. Historians still debate what these kinds of letters are. Real logbooks? Folklore wrapped in nautical jargon? Some believe sailors use poetic metaphors to describe natural phenomena, like mirages, bioluminescent algae, or auroras. Others argue that they're simply bad writers with good imaginations. You like to think they're both. You make small notes in the margin of your draft. Circles. Question marks. A tiny doodle of a boat being chased by something that might be a whale or a large cucumber. The line is fuzzy. You caption it. See beast, possibly vegetable. Light joke. You have to amuse yourself. No one else will. You pause to examine a chart from a Flemish trader. A man who wore his beard in 2 braids and claimed he'd seen land that moved. Floating islands, he said, with birds nesting on them. But the birds didn't leave. They were the island. You'd raise an eyebrow at that. But he swore on his mother's grave, then admitted she wasn't dead yet. But she will be eventually, he added helpfully. You didn't include his floating bird islands on your last map, but tonight, you sketch one in the margin. A little joke to yourself. Or maybe not a joke at all. You stop to look at the wall. There, pinned with brass tacks, are sketches you collected from across the continent. Maps drawn by Chinese traders, Norse explorers, Muslim scholars. Some wildly contradictory, others oddly similar. One shows a great mountain in the west that bleeds rivers of fire into the sea. A volcano, maybe, or another metaphor. Another shows a peninsula shaped like a hand, reaching into the ocean. When turned upside down, it resembles a claw. You stare at it for a while, unnerved. Then your eyes land on a strange letter written in crude Latin, scrawled sideways in the margin of another chart. Here, the sea devours the sun. No night follows, only fire. You frown. That description doesn't match any known phenomenon. Unless, could it be volcanic activity at sea? Submarine eruptions? Some believe sailors in the 15th century may have seen undersea volcanoes and interpret them as monsters or omens. Historians still debate whether these descriptions are literal or mythical. You scribble next to it. Could be useful for scaring navigators into turning around. Then smile. Light joke. You lean back on your heels. The letters cover your floor like feathers. They whisper different versions of the same story. There's more. There's something beyond. But no one agrees on what it is. And somehow, it's your job to fit it all together into a single picture. Your eyes drift to the corner of your map, the part that remains blank. It feels heavier than the rest, as if it's waiting. You sigh and say aloud, and no one, maps lie. That's why we need them. Then you get back to work. There's a knock at the studio door again, mid-morning this time. You're mid-sentence on a note to yourself about wind directions when it comes, sharp and precise. Not like a messenger. More like someone knocking in Morse code. You wipe ink from your fingers with the hem of your shirt, your better shirt, unfortunately, and open the door. It's her, Lady Benedict Albrizzi. Not technically a lady by title, but she carries herself like someone descended directly from a comet. She's dressed plainly, by Venetian standards, which still means layers of gauze, fine wool, and a dark blue shawl embroidered with tiny silver stars. You've known her for years, but only through letters and the occasional lecture she hosts in abandoned wine cellars when the moon is just right. She is, to put it mildly, the most dangerous astronomer in Venice. Dangerous not in temperament, but because she sees patterns that others choose not to see. She steps inside without waiting for an invitation. "You're drawing the known world again," she says, peering at your parchment like a hawk studying prey. How quaint. You give a polite bow. Some of us like pretending it can be known. She doesn't laugh, but her lip twitches. For her, that's thunderous approval. "I brought tea," she says, handing you a satchel filled with crushed leaves that smell of orange peel, cloves, and something darker. "Also, I have a question." You blink. "Just one." "I'm trying to determine whether what the sailors see when they sail west is atmospheric distortion," she says, settling herself on a crate, "or that the world truly bends there." You pause. Bends. She nods, like a scroll being curled at the edge. What if what they're seeing isn't imaginary? What if it's just too far ahead of them? You boil water over your small iron stove, which hisses like an offended goose. She takes the tea without sugar, and with the kind of graceful discomfort of someone always slightly out of time. You talk maps. You talk moons. You talk trade winds and mirages, and whether the earth sighs when no one is listening. Light joke. You tell her the earth definitely sighs, especially when being mapped by amateurs. She does not deny this. Then she says softly, "They're preparing a voyage." Your hand stops midair. She continues, "A new one, not the Portuguese, not Columbus, something else, off the books, secret, even from the Doge, funded by, well, let's just say by hands so gloved they leave no fingerprints." You raise your eyebrows. "Venetian?" She nods slowly. "And they want your map, not just the coastlines. Everything. The rumors, the guesses, even the lies." You set your teacup down. It trembles slightly. Lady Albrizzi sighs and pulls from her satchel a small, circular object, a brass disc etched with interlocking rings. An astrolabe, but like none you've seen. It has layers, strange symbols not in Arabic or Latin, and a moving piece shaped like a crescent moon with tiny teeth. "This," she says, "is what they're using to calculate the journey. I've only just acquired it. Don't ask how." You don't. She clicks it once. A piece inside shifts with a faint metallic sigh. "It predicts something," she says. "Something big. A convergence of some kind. Celestial. Possibly philosophical. You're not sure what a philosophical convergence looks like, but you pretend to. Historians still debate whether these unusual instruments were prototypes for advanced navigation or they were ritualistic, used in secret societies like the Rosicrucians or the Hermeticists. This one certainly doesn't look like it came from a spice trader. You examine it gently. The metal is warm, like it's been sitting in the sun. But it hasn't. Where did you get this? You ask. She tilts her head. You wouldn't believe me. You probably would. The tea goes cold. Outside, the canal hums with midday traffic. A boy walks by singing a nonsense song about a pigeon who became pope. You turn back to your map. Lady Albrizzi watches you. You'll add it, won't you? The guesswork. The edge. You nod slowly. They didn't ask for a map of what we know. They asked for a map of what we almost know. She stands, dusts off her shawl. Good, because the truth is far too slippery to sail toward directly. As she leaves, she says without turning, "Oh, and be careful with the lower margin of your map. That's where the horizon tends to tear." Then she's gone. You sit there for a long moment. You stare at your parchment, at the unwritten space. Then you unroll the far left corner, the one reserved for the unknown. With slow, deliberate strokes, you draw a curve, a very slight one, just enough to suggest that the world might not be what everyone thinks. And maybe, just maybe, it never was. Afternoon settles in with a lazy confidence. Sunlight slants through the warped glass windows of your studio, casting long golden lines across your desk. Your boots, the pile of maps that looks less like geography and more like fever dreams. You pack them carefully into your satchel. Some official, some speculative, one containing an angry sketch of a ship falling off the edge of the world labeled, "Don't try this route." Because today, you're attending a meeting of the Cartographers Guild. And if that sounds prestigious, let us gently adjust your expectations. The Cartographers Guild of Venice is not so much a bastion of scholarly excellence as it is a collection of highly ink-stained eccentrics who argue loudly about latitude, drink too much red wine at noon, and once nearly came to blows over whether the sea should be colored green or blue. You arrive at the guild hall, a sagging stone building near the fish market that smells perpetually of salt, lemons, and mild regret. Inside, the usual suspects await. First, old Giacomo, who maps coastlines as if they're musical compositions and occasionally labels mountains with the names of his ex-lovers. He waves to you with a hand stained so deeply with ink it looks like it's wearing gloves. Next is Lavinia, who claims to have seen the world twice, once while awake and once in a dream, and insists both versions are equally valid. She carries a map today that features a desert shaped like a violin. Then there's Tomas, who always brings cheese and insists it's for cartographic inspiration. Everyone knows it's just cheese. "Ah, our dreamer arrives," says Giacomo as you enter. "Come, tell us, have you drawn any more sea monsters lately?" You smile faintly. "Only the ones I suspect are real." Light joke, mild ripple of laughter. The meeting begins. Lavinia presents a map with a new theory, that the earth isn't round or flat, but rather shaped like a lemon left too long in the sun. There's spirited debate. Giacomo proposes revising the Mediterranean coast to reflect tidal erosion more accurately, only to reveal he's based his measurements on a love letter he received from a lighthouse keeper. Historians still argue over how seriously these guild meetings influenced official navigation. Some claim they were mere social clubs. Others point to early Venetian maps containing shockingly accurate placements of then unknown islands. Still others say the guild was more of a rumor mill, half cartography, half chaos. Today, though, something unusual happens. Tomas, the quiet one, the cheese bringer, clears his throat. "I've heard a rumor," he says. Everyone stops talking. That alone is alarming. Tomas continues. There's a plan, a secret voyage, westward, unofficial, funded by parties unknown. They're gathering navigators, astrologers, even a priest fluent in Latin and Nahuatl. Your heart does a soft, startled turn. That matches what Lady Albrizzi said. Lavinia arches a brow. And what has this to do with us? They want a map. Tomas says, one that includes not just land, but, how did they put it? The emotional topography of uncharted space. The room falls silent. Then Lavinia laughs. That sounds like something I'd say while drunk and watching sunset. But you don't laugh. You know this request is real. And you know they'll come for your map eventually. You gently unroll one section of your draft. The bit with the speculative islands, drawn from those salt-stained letters, matched by celestial alignments and some good, old-fashioned guesswork. The room leans in. Even Giacomo looks impressed. You've drawn emotion into it, he murmurs. It feels alive. You nod slowly. That's because it is. There's a moment, a very soft one, where you all sit in silence, looking at something not just inked but felt. A map not where people have gone, but where they long to go. And then Tomas, in a whisper, adds, they'll pay anything for this, but they'll also take it if you don't give it freely. You nod again. Not a surprise. That's always been the price of truth. Later, as the meeting dissolves and everyone drifts away like shadows on the sea, Lavinia pulls you aside. Be careful, she says. Maps change the world. But sometimes the world changes maps first. You don't ask what she means. You suspect you already know. Outside, Venice hums with late afternoon life. The bells of San Marco toll the hour, echoing off stone and water. You tighten the strap on your satchel, feeling the weight of paper, of ink, of dreams drawn too close to waking. Back in your studio, you lock the door behind you. You light a candle. The world feels slightly more tilted than before. You unroll the map again. Stare at the blank space on the edge. And you write, here be hope, and maybe something worse. Because if you're going to draw the unknown, it might as well be honest. Venice at night is velvet black, stitched with candlelight. Gondolas whisper across canals, or slicing through moonlit reflections like soft scissors. The city has quieted, but not slept. Venice never truly sleeps. She just waits behind a half-closed fan, listening. You're nearly asleep yourself, head bowed over a sheet of parchment. Your candle flickers low, the flame dancing like it's dreaming of being a star. You should have gone to bed hours ago, but something about the blank space at the edge of your map won't let you rest. Then comes the knock. Not the casual, syncopated knock of a merchant or the hesitant tap of a lost student. This one is firm, slow, intentional. You freeze. Another knock. Just 3, as if the person already knows you're awake. You rise and unlock the door. Standing there is a man cloaked in deep navy, the kind that absorbs light. The hood hides most of his face, but you can see part of a scar trailing down from the left cheek. His hands are gloved, an odd choice in Venice's spring warmth. Cartographer, he says, voice low, like it was dug out of a cave. We have a commission. Not a request. A commission. You say nothing but step aside. He enters and glances around the studio. You feel suddenly embarrassed by the mess, half-eaten pear, a sock with ink on it. Scrolls unravel like lazy serpents. He unrolls a letter onto your desk. No seal, no signature. Just fine, aggressive handwriting in black ink. You are to create a singular map. 1 part truth, 1 part speculation, 1 part omen. It must include the best-known westward routes from the Azores, all rumored landmasses west of the Canaries, atmospheric anomalies reported by sailors, and any place you've only ever dreamt of. Compensation will be substantial. Completion expected by the next full moon. This document does not exist. You read it twice. Then the man places something on your desk. A coin, but not any Venetian ducat. This one is heavier. Worn. Gold, yes, but stamped with design you've never seen. A compass rolls over a stylized eye, surrounded by script in no known language. You ask, "What currency is this?" He replies, "It's not. It's a key." Joke. You almost ask if it unlocks better sleep. You do not say it out loud. He doesn't seem like the chuckling type. He hands you a folded piece of aged parchment, older than anything in your studio. Carefully you unfold it. It's a fragment of a map. Only 2 landmarks are labeled: Isola del Silenzio, Island of Silence, and Mare Umbrarum, Sea of Shadows. Historians still debate whether these places existed or whether they were metaphorical. Terms used by mariners to describe stretches of sea where compasses went wild and the sky changed color without warning. You glance up. Why me? The man answers, because you understand what a map isn't. You don't ask what happens if you say no. You suspect you won't enjoy the answer. He turns to leave, then pauses at the door. When it's ready, fold into force and leave it beneath the lion statue in the Campo dei Mori. Midnight. No envelope. Then he's gone. You stand there for a long time, staring at the parchment. Your cat, Galileo, emerges from behind a crate and yawns pointedly. He's either deeply unimpressed by cloaked men or he meets one every Tuesday. You sink into your chair. Your eyes return to the fragment, Isola del Silenzio. You remember a sailor's tale. Something about an island where no sound exists, where the wind moves but does not whisper, and where people go mad listening to their own thoughts echo like thunder. You shiver and begin sketching. You draw the Azores, the Canary Islands, the tips of Portugal and Spain. You pencil in currents, the Canary Current, the equatorial drift, veins through which the ocean breathes. Then you add the impossible. You sketch the Mare Umbrarum, a vast, dark sea shaped like a human eye in sleep. You add Isola del Silenzio, cradled in its pupil. And then you do something strange. You close your eyes. You let your hand move, not guided by knowledge or logic, but by instinct, dream memory, the echo of a place you've never been but somehow miss. A coastline takes shape, not jagged like Europe's, nor blunt like Africa's. It curves gently, sensually like a sigh made visible. You draw bays like question marks, and a forest shaped like a sleeping dog. You don't name this land. Not yet. Naming would make it real. And right now, it needs to stay just out of reach. Your candle has nearly died. Wax pools like golden tears. You stretch, bones cracking softly like the hull of a ship under strain. You glance once more at the strange coin. It seems to hum in the quiet, faintly, like metal remembering a song. You place it under your pillow. For dreams, you whisper, The city outside murmurs. A gondolier sings an off-key lullaby about a mermaid who married a lighthouse. You blow out the candle, and the night deepens around your dreams. You wake with the taste of salt on your lips. Not tears, see. You're sure of it. That briny, sun-warmed tang that lives in the bones of driftwood and the wrinkles of sailors. And before your eyes even open, your hand is already reaching for the map. But when you unroll the parchment you worked on last night, something's wrong. Lines have shifted. The coastline you dream-sketched, the one that curved like a sigh, now looks different. It's pulled tighter. The gentle bay is narrowed. The forest no longer resembles a dog. It looks more like an open mouth. You didn't draw this. Unless you did in your sleep, which, admittedly, isn't entirely out of question. You once inked an entire map of the Adriatic after sleepwalking with a squid feather pen. It took weeks to remove the stains from your ceiling. You study the map with narrowed eyes. Ink doesn't usually change overnight. And yet, here you are. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls. 3 chimes. Late morning. You've already missed your appointment with the parchment merchant. Again. Instead, you dive into your notebooks. You pull out sailor accounts, rumors, weather logs, fragments of poetry written in the margins of astrolabe manuals. You chase whispers. You look for patterns. One entry jumps out at you. From a Portuguese helmsman in 1482. Saw land through morning mist. Not on any map. Trees black as ink. Air buzzed like sleep. Compass spun. Navigator cried. Said he saw his mother calling. You scribble a note beside it. Marum Brerum encounter? Isola del Silenzio adjacent? Or myth brain fog? Light joke. You briefly consider drawing a here be emotional breakdown corner. Then you realize every account of westward anomalies shares one thing. The land, if seen at all, never looks the same twice. It shifts. You stare at your map again. Now the forest is gone. In its place, a lake, perfectly circular, like a mirror, waiting to reflect something back at you. You mutter under your breath. Stop that. Historians still argue whether this phenomenon was psychological, navigational error, or something more profound. Some say the early explorers, deprived of familiar stars, projected fears onto the ocean. Others suggest magnetism. A few fringe scholars even argue the world itself was less settled in those days, more malleable. You rub your temples. It's only midday and already the map feels heavier, like it's not paper, but responsibility. There's a soft knock at your window. Not the door, the window. You freeze, then move quietly across the room. You slide the shutter open a sliver. A pigeon is perched on the sill, tied to its leg. A note. Well, at least it's not another cloaked visitor. You gently untie the ribbon and open the tiny scroll. The handwriting is unfamiliar. Sharp, spindly. We are watching your progress. Don't let the map finish itself. It remembers things best left forgotten. No signature. No context. Just that. You check the sky. No other birds. No sign of the sender. You consider telling someone, but who? Lavinia would say, of course it's haunted. Most maps are. Giacomo would just try to date it romantically. You go for a walk instead. The air outside is thick with late spring. The canals are glossy with heat. A gondolier hums the same off-key mermaid song from the other night. You find yourself walking without thinking, as if your feet are following a memory. You end up at the Campo dei Mori. The lion statue sits silent, stone tongue curled in a frozen roar. The hiding place, where you're supposed to leave the finished map. You crouch beside it, just a peek, to feel the ground where it will rest. But when your fingers brush the base, you feel a slip of parchment already there, a note folded in fourths. You glance around. No one. You unfold it, a copy of your map, but not the one you've drawn, the one that hasn't been drawn yet. It shows new symbols. A jagged spine of mountains labeled whispers, a coast labeled regret, and near the bottom, a strange circular symbol. Not quite an island, not quite a whirlpool. You touch it. The ink is fresh. Back home, the map waits for you. You return quickly, heart hammering, not from fear exactly, but from that odd sensation of time folding. You burst into your studio. The map lies flat, but the ink, it's changed again. The forest is back, only now it has doors. You didn't draw those. You take a deep breath. Pull your compass from the shelf. The needle swings wildly, then slowly settles, pointing not north but west. You laugh softly. Oh, so that's how it's going to be. You roll up your sleeves. You whisper to the map. Fine. Show me. You don't sleep that night. The map pulses under your fingers like something breathing. You've stopped trying to draw it. Now you just listen. That's the strange part. It isn't quiet anymore. You can hear something beneath the parchment. A faint whisper, like a breeze slipping through pages of book that hasn't been written yet. You tilt your head, thinking it's your imagination. Maybe it is. Maybe the fumes from your ink have finally rewired your brain. But you swear the map hums, like it remembers being alive. You take notes. Carefully. The coastline now resembles a curled hand. The lake has shifted again. It's no longer circular, but shaped like an eye, with thin rivers streaming from its corners like tears. The doors in the forest have multiplied. One of them, oddly, now bears a small symbol. A snail. Light joke. What are the snails moving in now? Must be a very slow migration. You glance toward Galileo. He's crouched on a shelf, ears back, staring at the map like it just insulted his ancestry. You whisper, "You see it too, don't you?" He blinks slowly. Then, with tremendous dignity, turns around and poops in your quill basket. Message received. You rise and stretch. The ache in your back is ancient now. You feel older than Venice, older than time. You've stopped tracking hours. Meals come and go in strange intervals. You drink more wine than water. The grapes are winning. And then, just before dawn, it happens. The twist. The map bleeds. Just a drop. Crimson. Right along the river marked out. You stare, heart hammering. You touch it, it's warm. You smell it. Iron. Salt. Like a cut on the lip. Joke. Well, that's not ominous at all. Then movement. In the ink. Tiny figures begin to appear on the map, not drawn by your hand. They're shaped like silhouettes made of shadow. Dozens of them, some near the forest, some gathering at the edge of the sea. One figure, larger than the rest, stands atop a mountain labeled silence. You lean closer. One of the figures turns its head toward you. You fall back in your chair, knocking over a stack of scrolls. Galileo hisses. Then, stillness. The figures freeze. Ink again. Motionless. You press your palms into your eyes. This is too much. Maps do not watch people. They do not bleed. They do not shift like moods. You tell yourself this must be a prank, a dream, some elaborate hallucinatory joke. But, deep down it's not. You return to your desk and write one word beside the map. Why? The next morning, a letter appears on your windowsill. No bird this time. Just there, as though it always had been. You open it slowly. Same handwriting as the cloaked man's letter. Because memory cannot be trusted. Because maps are only honest when they lie. Because you ask to know what's west. The page trembles in your hand. You think of the stories your father told you about the old maps that showed Eden in 4 different places. The sea serpents drawn to warn or to tempt. He always said, the first lie ever told was a direction. You never understood what he meant. Now you do. That night you dream. You're walking through the forest on your map. The trees are impossibly tall, bark etched with tiny cartographic symbols. Rivers run uphill. The air smells like parchment and sorrow. You follow a path made of compass needles, all pointing in different directions. Then you find one of the doors, the one with the snail carved into it. You reach out, the door opens, and you wake, sweating, hand outstretched, heart galloping like a horse that knows it's being hunted. The map waits. Historians still argue whether the ancient cartographers, those few who dared draw the unknown, knew what they were doing. Some say their inaccuracies were ignorance. Others say they were deliberate omissions, protection spells made from misdirection. A map, after all, can guide, but it can also guard. You start to wonder, what if this map isn't showing you what's there, but what's meant to stay hidden? What if you're making it real by looking at it? The thought makes your skin crawl in a very gentle, ASMR-friendly way. You sit down again, slowly. You pick up your finest quill, the one carved from the feather of a golden heron, a gift from a German cartomancer who once mapped a dream. You dip it in ink, and write. I see you. The ink shudders. Then, faintly, barely there, beneath the mountain called silence, new text appears. Then you must come. You don't remember deciding to leave. There's no sudden declaration, no farewell speech to Galileo. He wouldn't listen anyway. No tearful goodbye at the docks. You just find yourself packing. The essentials, your roll map bound in silk, the heron feather quill, a compass that hasn't pointed north in days, a lantern with blue glass, a notebook filled with half-finished thoughts and sketches of things that shouldn't exist, and, of course, cheese. Because even in madness, you must snack responsibly. Light joke. Who explores the uncharted without brie? You mutter. Amateurs, that's who. You wear your old sea coat, the one with pockets deep enough to lose entire arguments in. You dust off your boots. You pat Galileo on the head, and to your eternal surprise, he nuzzles you. He knows. You close the door behind you. Venice is asleep. That dreamy, water-lull hush between midnight and dawn. Fog snakes across the canals like forgotten silk scarves. Your footsteps are muffled on the stone, swallowed by mist. You pass shuttered windows, the smell with smoke and salt in the air. Your contact waits at the pier. He is small, round, and almost certainly wearing a wig. His boat is equally unimpressive, narrow, faded, and painted the unfortunate color of wet cauliflower. You the one who draws dreams, he grunts. Sometimes you answer, he nods, as if that makes perfect sense. Good. The map says to leave now. Tide's wrong. That's usually right. You don't ask what he means. You just step into the boat. The lantern swings from the bow, its blue light staining the water. The boat moves without oars. The city slides away behind you, its towers and domes swallowed by fog. After a while, the canals widen. The water grows darker. The stars overhead seem unfamiliar. One twinkles red. One flickers like a flame caught in breath. And then, open water. You're on the Adriatic. But it doesn't feel like the Adriatic. The air is thicker. The sky heavier. You check your compass. It's spinning again. The boat veers west. You don't tell it to. You just go. Somewhere in the darkness, gulls cry, or something that wants you to think it's gulls. You reach into your coat pocket and find a note that wasn't there before, folded neatly, the same handwriting. Do not speak the island's name. Do not offer your real name. Do not eat the fruit unless it weeps. Joke! Well, that's wonderfully comforting. Next you'll be told not to look in mirrors or pet any talking goats. You drift for hours, maybe days. Time stretches out, then snaps back like a rubber band. The sea beneath you glows in places, soft pulses of green and blue, like underwater lanterns. Then, just as the sun begins to rise or set, it's hard to tell. The fog parts. There it is, the island, not on any official map, not claimed by any kingdom, not marked with a name. It rises like a question. Tall cliffs wrapped in mist, forests that seem to inhale and exhale, a river gleaming like mercury. You feel before you touch it, pressure in your ears, a flutter in your chest, as if you stepped into a story that hasn't decided its genre yet. The boat docks itself. The small round man gives you a look. It'll ask. Don't answer. What'll ask, you say. But he's already fading. Literally, like chalk and rain. His last words, half a whisper. Keep your mind tied to your name. You step onto the shore. The sand is silver, not sparkly, but dull, like old coins. It crunches underfoot in a way that's almost apologetic. The air smells of rosemary and rust. You unfold your map. It's changed again. Now the island is fully drawn, labeled in a language you don't know, at least not consciously. The mountain is there. So is the lake. The forest with doors. But the borders are missing. The edges fray into symbols. A whisper behind you. Cartographer. You turn. No one there. Just the trees, tall and silent. The river murmuring secrets. Historians still argue whether certain islands off the Venetian trade routes were natural or constructed. Some say the cartographers of old invented them to sell maps. Others believe the islands themselves invented the cartographers, needing someone to see them into being. You're not sure which side you're on anymore. You walk. The path rises gently. Ferns brush your arms. You pass a stone with a face carved into it. No mouth, just eyes. Another joke to yourself. Finally, a critic who can't speak. The trees thin. A clearing opens. And there it is. The door from your dream. Snail symbol and all. You reach out. The wood is warm. The map unfurls in your hand, fluttering despite the still air. A line begins to trace itself across the parchment, slow, deliberate, showing you here, now. You whisper, "Show me where I go next." The map writes one word, inward, and the door opens. The air inside the door is cool and still. No echo, no draft, just a steady quiet, like the pause between a question and an answer. The door closes behind you, not with a slam, but with a kind of soft exhale, as if it's relieved you've entered. You take a cautious step forward, your boots tapping against something smooth beneath the mossy floor. Marble, not forest floor. And then you see them. Maps. Endless shelves stretching into the dark, higher than the eye can follow, each stacked with scrolls and parchments, glowing faintly with a bluish sheen. Some float midair, others unfurl slowly, then curl back up like shy animals. A breathy laugh escapes your lips. Well, this is definitely not in the tour brochures. Your voice doesn't echo. The space swallows sound like a sponge. You walk among the shelves, trailing your fingers over the edges of ancient atlases. You pause at one that vibrates softly. It's bound in red leather, with symbols that resemble both compass roses and spider webs. You open it. The pages are blank. But you feel something. A presence, a whisper just behind the silence. Then faint lines begin to appear, shaped like valleys. But the valleys curve upward against gravity. Rivers run skyward. Another shows cities shaped like spirals, each building revolving around a center that's missing. You blink. The maps fade again, as if sensing your confusion. You move on. Light joke. Well, at least they're not interactive maps. I'd hate for one to start asking for feedback. A hallway opens to your left. You follow it. Statues line the walls. Figures in cloaks, their faces hidden, holding tools of navigation. Compasses, astrolabes, ink-stained globes. One cradles what looks like a beating heart wrapped in vellum. At the end of the corridor, a massive door stands. Above it, etched in gold, "To trace is to invite." You hesitate. Something inside you tugs at the memory of that first moment you drew a line as a child, how it felt like magic, like giving shape to the invisible. You push the door. Inside is a vast chamber shaped like a dome. The walls are covered in maps, but they shift. You look at one. It shows the coastline of Africa. You blink. It's gone, replaced by something that resembles a spinal column with rivers for veins. You turn slowly. In the center of the room stands a figure, cloaked, still, as if waiting. "I've been drawing you," you say before you even realize it. The figure lifts its head. Its face is vague, not blurry, but undecided, like it hasn't chosen who to be yet. "You've been reading the map," it replies. Not everyone hears it. "I didn't want to," you whisper. "At first." No one ever does. It reaches behind itself and lifts a scroll, one that hums. You drew something you weren't meant to see, but something you were always meant to find. It unrolls the scroll. It's your map, your coastline, your mountains, your tiny ink-stained doubts, but also things you didn't draw, moments that happened to you. The letter, the bleeding ink, the dream. You stare, heart pounding. The figure steps closer. Maps don't show places. They show possibilities. They're the only art form that makes a claim to truth while knowing it lies. Historians still argue whether the most famous medieval maps, like the Map of Mundi, were genuinely meant to reflect geography, or if they were theological diagrams, metaphors disguised as countries. Some suggest the map makers weren't mistaken. They just had different intentions. You look down at your trembling hands. I don't know where this is going. You admit. That's the point, says the figure. If you knew, you wouldn't need the map. You close your eyes. Breathe. The room hums around you. The sound of lines being drawn, erased, redrawn. The figure offers you the scroll. You can leave now, it says, or you can draw what comes next. What happens if I draw the wrong thing? You ask. The figure tilts its head. Wrong is only a place you visit before you understand the shape of right. Light joke, so like adolescence, but with ink. You take the scroll. Your fingers tingle. The map pulses once like a heartbeat. Then it goes still. You look up. The figure is gone. The dome is silent. The door creaks open behind you, not closing this time, but waiting. You step back into the hallway. The statues are watching now. You're sure of it, not judging, just witnessing. You tuck the scroll under your arm and walk, past the archive, out of the forest door, into a light that feels different now. And though the island hasn't changed, you have. You don't remember stepping outside. One moment, you're in the archive. The next, your boots are back on the silver sand. Sunlight filtering through clouds that resemble ink stains spread across parchment. The scroll in your hand is warm. It hums faintly, like a moth against your skin. The island is silent but alert, as though it too is watching to see what you'll do next. You unroll the scroll. It's no longer blank. Where before it showed traces of things that had happened, now it moves. A line creeps slowly across the page, curling and branching like a river or a thought. You stare at it, mesmerized. Joke. Okay, so the map has sentience now. That's fine. Totally normal cartographic behavior. You follow the line. Literally. It turns left into a copse of trees that smell faintly of cinnamon and moss. As you walk, the map draws ahead of you, predicting your steps with uncanny accuracy. Every now and then it hesitates, as though unsure which way you'll choose. And it waits. That's the strangest part. It doesn't lead you. It follows you following it. The path it draws soon leads to something unexpected. A garden. Not wild, but not quite tame either. Fences of woven vines. Statues half consumed by ivy. Beds of herbs you can't identify. At the center, a fountain. Instead of water, it trickles ink. Slow and gleaming, pooling in a marble basin shaped like a snail shell. You kneel beside it, careful not to touch. The scroll glows softly. A voice, not spoken aloud but felt, enters your mind. Will you draw? You glance around. Draw what? You whisper. The rest. The map unrolls farther. A space yawns wide and blank. You look back at the ink fountain. The surface ripples. Tentatively, you dip your quill. It trembles in your hand. You draw a hill, a bridge, a door, and as you draw, the ground beneath you shifts. The garden rearranges. The hill appears. The bridge arches. The door manifests, not out of stone or wood, but light and pressure. Joke. Okay, now we're in full make-your-own-adventure mode. Someone hand me a dice. You stare at the door. It's the same one from your dream. Again, but this time it's not closed. You open it. Inside is a room filled with stars. But not the sky. No, the stars are suspended in glass jars, thousands of them lining the walls, pulsing gently. Each one a tiny constellation, some familiar, some alien. One jar near the center glows brighter than the rest. You step toward it. Your name is etched on the lid. You lift it. The moment the jar opens, you're hit with sensation, not sight or sound, but remembrance. You see yourself as a child, drawing rivers on napkins. You hear your father's voice, teaching you how to find north by the moss on a stone. You feel the first time you realize a map was more than a picture. It was a choice. Tears prick your eyes. The room pulses with emotion. The jars flicker softly. And then the sound of something cracking. Not glass, not wood, something deeper. The scroll in your hand begins to tremble violently. A new line etches itself across the map, faster than before. Jagged, urgent, it cuts across the other lines, ignores borders, spills into the margins. The ink fountain behind you boils. You run, out of the star room, across the garden, through the trees. The island groans beneath you, as if some enormous, sleeping thing is shifting in its dreams. You trip, land hard on the sand. The scroll flutters from your grip. Then, silence, except breathing, not yours. You turn slowly. A figure stands at the edge of the clearing. Tall, not cloaked like before, wearing clothes that look familiar in a way you can't name. They hold an identical scroll. Who are you? You ask, breathless. The figure tilts their head. You know. You shake your head. No, I don't. You do. You drew me. And suddenly you see it. The same lines. The same mistakes. The same indecision. You hadn't just drawn places. You had drawn yourself. The map is you. All of it. Every path you took, every one you didn't. The figure walks forward, gently takes your hand. Their skin is warm. Familiar. There's a reason cartographers go mad. They whisper. It's not the maps. It's what they uncover. Historians still debate the fate of Vincenzo Coronelli, the famed Venetian mapmaker. Some say he died in peace. Others insist he vanished into one of his own globes, lost between imagination and reality. You now understand how that could be true. You close your eyes. The scroll presses against your chest, the ink seeping into your skin, not burning but soothing. The map no longer needs to be held. It is in you. Joke. Well, at least I don't have to worry about losing it in a satchel again. You open your eyes. The island is still. The sky is different. Stars where there were none. You are no longer following the map. You are becoming the one others will follow. You wake beneath a tree that wasn't there before. The bark is pale like aged parchment. Its branches arc gently, cradling the sky, and instead of leaves, it bears little compasses, each one spinning slowly, soundlessly, pointing in directions that no longer seem to exist. You lie there for a while, just breathing. The scroll is gone. Not lost, absorbed. You can feel it, gently humming beneath your ribs, every line etched into your memory. When you sit up, the air is different, brighter, thinner, like a high-altitude morning. You rise and glance around the clearing. now bordered by stones in the shapes of letters from forgotten alphabets. Somewhere in the distance, waves kiss the shore. Patient and indifferent, you begin walking, not following, not fleeing, just walking. It's strange, this new feeling, like you're no longer seeking direction, but carrying it. You crest a small rise and pause. There, laid out before you, is a village, half real, half remembered. Some of the roofs sag like memory foam. Others shimmer, as though lifted from the dreams of someone else entirely. You descend the path. Light joke. Hopefully they have coffee. Or at least dream coffee. I'm not picky. The villagers are odd in the gentlest way. They greet you like an old friend, though you've never seen their faces. One wears a crown of pencils. Another has maps tattooed over every inch of their skin. They do not ask questions. They simply nod as if to say, yes, you made it. You find a small bench outside a cottage that smells like cedar and ink. An elderly woman, face lined like topography, pours you tea without a word. It tastes of mint and something else, familiarity. You breathe it in. She speaks at last, voice like creased paper. You've come far. You nod. I think I went further than I meant to. She smiles. That's the only way the map works. You glance up at the sky. A bird passes, its wings marked with grid lines. It vanishes behind a cloud shaped unmistakably like a compass rose. Open historical debate. Historians still argue whether the Polynesian stick charts, intricate lattice maps made of wood and shells, were meant to be literal tools for navigation or symbolic teaching devices passed between generations. Some suggest the navigators memorized the charts, then left them behind, trusting only in their inner map. You ask the old woman, have you ever drawn a map that changed after you finished it? She chuckles. Every one of them. Joke. Do they at least send a change log or something? She stands and hands you something wrapped in linen. You unfold it. A compass, old and well used, the needle slightly bent. This one doesn't point north, she says. It points inward. You hold it. The needle spins and slows and settles toward your heart. She smiles. You're not just a cartographer now. You're a keeper. You whisper the word. It sounds heavier than you expect. That night, you dream again. You stand at the edge of a vast library. Not the archive from before, but something older, vaster. Shelves rise into darkness. Globes float like lanterns. 1,000 hands draw at once. One of them is yours. You draw a new path. This one not of places, but of moments. A handshake, a farewell, a starlit walk, a mistake that changed everything. And it draws back. The map responds, not like paper, but like a person. It pulses, flares, and folds itself into the shape of a compass. You wake with it in your hand, no longer linen-wrapped, now made of light. You walk to the edge of the village. The compasses in the trees are still spinning, but more slowly now, like they're resting. The path ahead is blank, not empty, available. You step forward. The ground forms beneath your feet. A road is born behind you with every step. And for the first time in your life, you realize you don't need the map, because you are the map. Every decision, every doubt, every turn, it all led here. And wherever you go next, it will be drawn not in ink, but in being. Joke. Still keep a backup GPS, though. just in case. The village fades behind you, but you don't look back. The sea sings faintly to your left. The forest breathes to your right. The horizon is yours. And ahead, somewhere not yet imagined, something waits, patient and unwritten. You smile, then keep walking. It starts with a tremor, so subtle, you wonder if you imagined it. A vibration beneath your soles. A low, resonant hum in the chest, like the turning of some great gear beneath the world. You walk for what feels like days, though the sky hasn't changed. Perpetual twilight, the color of candle wax and old vellum. Each step feels lighter than the last. Your shadow sometimes lags behind, sometimes walks ahead. Then you see it, rising from a valley shrouded in fog, like a pearl cracked open to reveal its secret, an enormous globe. It's hollow, at least from the outside. The lattice frame is brass, oxidized with time, half buried in the moss. Latitude and longitude lines stretch in elegant curves, interlacing with symbols you almost recognize. Some Greek, some alchemical, some that seem lifted straight from a dream. Your breath catches. It looks like Coronelli's work, but impossibly large. This isn't a globe for study. This is a globe for entering. Joke. Finally, a map I can literally get lost in. You circle it. There's no obvious entrance, just panels and curved ribs. But the compass in your hand glows faintly, its needle twitching toward a seam in the metal. You press your palm to it. It opens. You step inside, and the world tips. You're no longer walking. You're floating, suspended within a sphere of rotating maps, each one from a different time, a different theory of the world. Ptolemaic cosmoses, Babylonian river rectangles, the upside-down continents of medieval TO maps. They orbit slowly, ghost-like and immense, whispering in languages no one speaks anymore. Light joke, if Google Earth had a dream, this would be it. In the center hovers a smaller globe, rotating slowly. Unlike the others, it shows your island, but not as you know it. Here, the island is cracked open, revealing tunnels, caverns, stairways that spiral down into darkness. One section pulses faintly, a door frame drawn in golden ink. You reach out, your hand goes through the image, then your arm, your shoulder, until the rest of you follows, pulled gently inward. You land softly in a round chamber. Stone walls, a domed ceiling painted with constellations you've never seen. At the center, a table covered in scrolls, bones, coins, and something that looks disturbingly like a petrified eyeball wearing glasses. You approach the table. A scroll lies unfurled. It's your handwriting, but it details events you haven't yet lived. West Cliff, storm at dusk, masked figure drops key. Follow go cry. You look up, startled. High above, a slit in the ceiling reveals the sky. Clouds racing like thoughts. The wind changes direction. You hear it. A go. The sound echoes down into the chamber, impossibly clear. And then, a clink. A key lands at your feet. Small, brass, ornate. You pick it up slowly. Joke. Somebody's running a very elaborate escape room. You look around the chamber. A wall shimmers faintly, different from the rest. You press the key into a narrow slot. So narrow you wouldn't have noticed it without the prompt. The wall dissolves. Behind it, a staircase, spiraling down. Historians still puzzle over reports from 1704, when a Venetian scholar claimed to have found a globe designed by Coronelli that could be entered and which contained rotating maps of lost lands. No such globe has been found. Some say he was hallucinating from mercury ink exposure. Others aren't so sure. You descend. The air grows cooler. Damp. You run your hand along the wall, which is carved with names. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them. You find yours. Not etched in, grown in. The letters have roots. At the bottom, a door. Heavy. Stone. You knock. Because of course you do. It opens. Inside, a library. But this one's different. Not filled with books. Filled with you. Maps you've drawn. Maps you didn't draw. Paths you could have taken. Some tragic. Some hilarious. One shows you as a pastry chef in 18th century Paris. For some reason. The librarian is asleep. You approach. It's not a person. It's a machine, gears, parchment, and breath. Breathing slowly. Dreaming of geography. As you step closer, it twitches. Wakes. Eyes flicker open. Camera lenses. Smoky quartz. Something else. It speaks in a voice like wind over an atlas. Update. You blink. What? New path detected. Uploading. Suddenly, you feel it. Your memories, your journey, your map, streaming into the librarian. Not being taken. Being preserved. For someone else. You realize this place isn't for you. It's for the next traveler. And the next. You leave the key on the table. You step back into the globe. The maps are quiet now. Watching. Waiting. You float again, then fall gently to the forest floor outside. You lie still for a long time. The brass seams of the hollow globe close behind you, fading into moss. It was never about getting somewhere. It was about leaving something behind. Your footsteps lead you downhill again, the terrain softening into gentle slopes. The air turns humid, sweet with the smell of moss and wet stone. Through the trees you hear it, quiet at first, then steadily louder. Water, a river, wide, dark, and winding like a ribbon of ink spilled across the land. You stop at the edge. The current moves lazily, curling around smooth boulders and dipping beneath overgrown banks. There's a raft tied to a post, just sitting there, waiting. Naturally, light joke. Either this is for me or I just became someone's unintentional mail delivery. You untie the rope, step onto the raft. It creaks beneath your weight, but holds. A pole rests in the center, long, worn smooth from many hands. As soon as you push off, the current takes over. You drift, not aimlessly. The river guides you. It winds through groves of giant ferns, past stone ruins half swallowed by ivy, under bridges that stretch impossibly high into the mist. Some of the bridges seem to be made of bone, or coral, or glass. You float beneath one that bears carvings of faces, hundreds of them, mouths open in song. You swear you hear their voices in the breeze. A whisper travels along the water's surface. It curls around your ears. A name, your name. The river remembers. You lean closer. Beneath the surface, just for a moment, you see a flicker, an image from earlier in your life. A map you once drew as a child, all crayon oceans and wobbly mountains. Then another, the face of a friend you lost touch with, smiling from a memory you've forgotten. The river doesn't just remember you. It knows you, and it knows where you're going. Open historical mystery. Some ancient river systems, like the Sarasvati of the Indus Valley, are said to have vanished without a trace. But satellite imaging in recent years suggests they may still exist, flowing underground, invisibly sustaining the land in secret. Historians disagree whether these ghost rivers are myth or misunderstood geology. You wonder, is this river above ground, or has it always been buried in the folds of the mind, surfacing only when you're ready to see it? Joke. This is either very profound or I fell asleep in a museum again. You pass a riverbank lined with statues, cartographers, all of them, each one clutching a scroll, a quill, or in one case, a sandwich. You nod respectfully to that one. The raft bumps gently against a small dock. You disembark without question. The river pulls away. Continuing on without you, you watch it go, then turn. A structure rises just ahead, half sunk in the earth, part temple, part observatory. Its domed roof is cracked open like an eggshell, vines spilling down its sides. Symbols spiral around the entrance. Some you know, some you feel. Inside, silence. Cool stone. A faint echo follows your footsteps. In the center of the chamber stands a massive table, carved from basalt, its surface etched with sprawling, spiraling map. Only it's not of land. It's a map of your decisions. Each line, a choice. Each loop, a hesitation. Dead ends where fear won. Open avenues where courage took the reins. You run your fingers over it. Some lines glow faintly beneath your touch. Others remain dim, like unplayed notes in song. A small orb rests on the table. You pick it up. The room shifts. Suddenly you are surrounded by versions of yourself, each following a different map. One becomes a scholar. One sails away and never returns. One never draws at all. And all of them are you. Some wave, others nod. One gives you a thumbs up. You return it. Joke. Okay, note to self, avoid the one with the goatee and monocle. That guy seems intense. Then all of them fold inward, blending into your own outline. The orb pulses. You place it on the map, and the chamber begins to rise. Not the ceiling, the floor. It lifts you slowly, like a platform carried by time itself. Above, the cracked dome opens wide. You rise into the air, surrounded by the scent of rain, of old pages, of something both ending and beginning. The sky welcomes you. Below, the river continues to wind. It doesn't rush. It remembers. And now, so do you? You reach the top of the observatory and step out into a wind that's just the right temperature, cool enough to wake, warm enough to soothe. A path begins here, narrow, curving, etched into the very clouds. You step onto it. Far below, the river hums a song you'll never forget. The cloud path leads you to a quiet plateau, high above the forests and rivers, where the world feels thinner, like stretched parchment. The air is strange here, still but full of pressure, as if something is about to reveal itself. You walk toward a stone archway carved into the mountain. It doesn't loom. It waits. At the top is an inscription in a language you don't consciously understand, but somewhere deep in your bones, you know what it says. Here dwells the first who drew the world. Inside there's a study, ancient and impossibly well kept. The stone walls are hung with hand-drawn maps, hundreds of them, some impossibly precise, others clearly emotional or symbolic. Some have no borders at all. A few are entirely red, as if drawn from memory and blood. A strange glow filters in from no clear source. Time stutters here. You can feel it. There's a desk. A candle burns, but there's no wax. The flame flickers even though there's no breeze. And sitting there, hunched over a page with ink-stained fingers, is a figure, the forgotten cartographer. You don't speak. You wait. He or they don't look up. They continue drawing, slowly, with absolute focus. When the quill pauses, you feel the world itself pause with it. Then, softly, he speaks. So, you come all this way without a map. Your voice barely works. I had one. The cartographer smiles faintly. But not this one. They turn the page toward you. It's blank, but only for a moment. Ink begins to spider across the surface, showing your path, winding and precise, looping where you hesitated, spiking where you ran. It shows places you've been, but also places you might have gone and didn't, and more unsettling, places you have no memory of at all. You lean in closer. One of the missing places is a dark mark, a shadow, not empty, just blurred. You blocked that, the cartographer says gently. It was too painful. You swallow. What was it? We don't label those. We simply let them be. Joke, right? Emotional topography. My favorite elective. They laugh softly, like parchment crackling. Then they draw one more mark on the map. It's ahead of you, an X, but not treasure, not danger, just a place. You should go there, they say, before the others arrive. Others, the cartographer nods. Everyone leaves a map behind. Yours will guide someone else one day. You realize this entire journey has been both singular and shared. The idea of being alone was an illusion. Each step you took has already echoed forward. One real historical fact. Leonardo da Vinci sketched not only mechanical inventions and anatomical diagrams, but speculative maps of imagined cities, some of which were so advanced they prefigured modern urban planning by centuries. You ask cartographer, did I make all the right choices? They smile again. No one ever has. But you walk forward, and that's enough. You ask their name. They hesitate. I've had many, but no one remembers them. I remember yours, though. They hand you the map. It's still warm, still unfinished. As you step toward the archway again, the air shifts. The wind picks up gently. The sky outside is no longer cloudy. It's full of stars. The forgotten cartographer says one last thing as you leave. Don't be afraid to leave blank spaces. That's where wonder begins. Debated historical mystery. Many scholars argue whether the phantom islands that appeared on early maps, like High Brazil, Friesland, or Thule, were real sightings distorted over time, complete fabrications, or symbolic stand-ins for unreachable truths. You step back onto the path, holding your map, and in the distance you see it. That final place. It glows faintly at the edge of the world, a place beyond borders. You walk toward it. Your footsteps are almost silent now, muffled by a path made not of stone or earth, but something softer, like the weave of memory itself. The air around you has taken on a golden hue, as if the sky is catching its breath before exhaling something ancient and final. Ahead lies the X. But it doesn't shimmer or glow like a treasure chest in a storybook. It's quiet, modest, a circle of standing stones nestled in tall, swaying grass that hums gently, almost like it's whispering lullabies to the wind. You step into the circle. The world hushes. A low hum rises, but not from the stones, from you. The map you carry begins to change. The ink brightens, curling toward the final mark. Your entire path, everything you crossed, learned, forgotten, feared, all converges here. You kneel and place the map in the center of the circle. And for the first time, the map stops moving. It is complete. Emotion rushes in before thought can catch it. A bittersweet wave, filled with everything you've discovered and everything you had to leave behind to get here. And then you understand, this X was never a destination. It was a moment to pause, to mark that you've come this far, to choose what happens next. Light joke, honestly a bit anticlimactic. I was expecting a dramatic scroll or a swarm of fireflies forming my name. But it's perfect. You lie back in the grass. Look up. Stars gather above you. And they're not still. They move slowly, dancing across the sky in paths too deliberate to be random. They resemble the very lines on your map, as if your journey has always been written in the stars. Or perhaps the stars have been copying you this whole time. Weird historical tidbit. In 1514, German cartographer Martin Waldseemüller named a continent after Amerigo Vespucci, America, based on a single letter describing Vespucci's voyages. Later historians debated whether it was accurate, or if the name stuck mostly by accident. The truth is, history remembers what it's given, even when it misunderstands. You reach into your satchel. How long has that been there? And find a fresh piece of parchment. You feel the pull to draw something. But what? Not a map of the past. Not of roads already walked. A map of possibility. Open historical debate. Some argue that the first maps were utilitarian, meant for trade or migration. Others suggest they were spiritual, symbols of imagined journeys or mythical realms. You smile. Maybe they were both. You sketch a single winding path with no borders. No end, just movement, curves, loops, intersections. A few stars at the edge. A few places where the line fades, inviting the next dreamer to continue. You set it beside your finished map. Let the wind take it. The standing stones echo with low, warm sound, like a sigh of approval or goodbye. Joke. Do ancient monuments get jealous of newer, trendier destinations? Asking for a friend. As you rise, you realize you're not tired anymore. The burden of needing to get somewhere has lifted. You've made peace with the mystery, and you're ready to return. Not to where you started. There's no such place, but to yourself. Because everything you needed to find was always inside you. You just had to walk far enough to see it from a new angle. The grass bends as you walk back down the slope. Stars follow you. The stones remain behind, keeping your map safe, should anyone come looking. And you hope they do, because now you understand the lesson. Maps don't just show us where to go. They remind us that we can go.